Are Putin and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the same when it comes to violating human rights? In many instances, Netanyahu has been perceived as more ruthless, leading experts to believe he has committed more human rights violations. What surprises the world currently is the absence of arrest warrants against Netanyahu, unlike the situation with Putin. Strikingly, no one dared to question the International Criminal Court (ICC) regarding this matter until South Africa took a stand. Naledi Pandor, the South African Minister of International Relations, courageously asked the ICC prosecutor about the absence of an arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu, especially in contrast to the warrant issued for Russian President Vladimir Putin. However, the prosecutor remained silent, leaving the question unanswered. So, why is there no arrest warrant against Benjamin Netanyahu? Let's find out. Is Russia and Israel the same? In recent times, global attention has been drawn to conflicts involving Russia and Israel, specifically the situations in Ukraine and Gaza, respectively. Both scenarios involve the use of force and have led to civilian casualties. The Ukraine-Russia conflict unfolded when Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, leading to ongoing tensions between the two nations. The situation escalated further when Russia intervened militarily in Ukraine. Reports of brutality emerged, with accusations of human rights abuses, civilian casualties, and sanctions imposed on Ukraine. On the other side of the globe, the Israel-Gaza conflict is long-standing and deeply rooted. The current hostilities stem from historical tensions and territorial disputes, with both Israel and Palestine engaging in conflicts. The recent escalation has seen a surge in violence, with casualties reported on both sides, but predominantly in Gaza. So, experts say Russia and Israel are almost the same. Even in some places, Israel is more brutal. While it may be tempting to draw parallels between the two conflicts, it is crucial to examine the distinct nature of each situation. The motivations, historical context, and geopolitical dynamics vary significantly between Russia and Israel. But the method they are using is the same brutality. Russia's actions in Ukraine are often seen as attempts to exert influence in the region and maintain strategic control. In contrast, Israel's involvement in Gaza is deeply rooted in historical conflicts and competing claims to territory. Russia's actions in Ukraine have geopolitical implications for Europe, involving power struggles and questions of sovereignty. Israel's conflict with Gaza is part of the broader Middle East dynamics, where historical, religious, and territorial disputes intertwine. These distinct geopolitical contexts contribute to differences in how the international community perceives and responds to each conflict. Global responses to the conflicts also highlight the disparities. While Russia faced widespread condemnation and sanctions for its actions in Ukraine, Israel's actions in Gaza have garnered mixed reactions. Some nations criticize Israel's use of force, while others assert its right to self-defense. For that reason, the Israel and Palestine issue has become big due to support from all nations for either of the countries. So, what are the obvious similarities between Israel and Russia? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. While Russia's actions in Ukraine and Israel's actions in Gaza have significant differences, there are some similarities worth noting. There has been a notable use of force in both conflicts, including military operations and airstrikes. The use of force has resulted in civilian casualties and has raised concerns about the impact on non-combatants. Both conflicts have seen civilian casualties, sparking international condemnation and concerns about the humanitarian impact. The loss of innocent lives in war zones is a tragic commonality that has drawn attention and criticism from the global community. Both Russia and Israel have faced international criticism for their actions. The global community, including various nations and international organizations, has expressed concerns about the use of force, human rights abuses, and the overall impact on regional stability. Sanctions have been imposed on both Russia and Israel in response to their actions. The international community has employed economic sanctions, targeting key sectors of each nation's economy to influence and deter certain behaviors. The conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza are embedded in complex geopolitical dynamics. Both regions have historical, territorial, and religious dimensions contributing to long-standing tensions and conflicts. In both cases, the leadership roles of Vladimir Putin in Russia and Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel have been scrutinized. The leaders have faced questions about their decision-making, strategies, and handling of conflicts, with some critics drawing parallels between their leadership styles. The conflicts have had a global impact, with repercussions extending beyond the immediate regions. The situations in Ukraine and Gaza have influenced diplomatic relations, triggered debates in international forums, and raised broader questions about the role of major powers in regional conflicts. In the acknowledgement of parallels between Russia's actions in Ukraine and Israel's actions in Gaza, a nation has mustered the courage to question the International Criminal Court (ICC) prosecutor. The question revolves around why Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is not treated with the same scrutiny as Russian President Vladimir Putin. If both leaders' actions are comparable, the disparity in international responses raises fundamental questions about the universality of human rights. But what courageous nation has asked these questions? Well, it's no other than South Africa. The cornerstone of international humanitarian law is that human rights are universal and apply to everyone, regardless of nationality or political affiliation. However, the contrasting reactions to Russia's and Israel's actions challenge this principle. When Russia allegedly violated human rights in Ukraine, it faced widespread condemnation and sanctions. In contrast, Israel's actions in Gaza have, in some instances, garnered support rather than criticism. One cannot ignore the role of geopolitical influences in shaping international responses to conflicts. The West, comprising powerful nations with significant diplomatic sway, has been pivotal in determining the narrative around global events. When the West criticized Russia for its actions in Ukraine, international communities echoed this sentiment, highlighting the influence of powerful alliances. However, the tides seem to shift regarding Israel. As Western nations throw their support behind Israel, the international community appears more lenient in its response. This raises suspicions about the impartiality of global reactions and leads to the question of whether the political stances of influential Western powers sway international communities. The selective outrage or support exhibited by international communities based on geopolitical considerations poses inherent dangers. It damages the credibility of institutions that uphold justice and human rights universally. The perception that actions are judged not on their merits but on the geopolitical alignments of involved nations erodes the foundation of global moral authority. But what has South Africa asked the ICC prosecutor? South Africa's International Relations Minister, Naledi Pandor, has recently raised pertinent questions about the International Criminal Court's ICC handling of cases involving Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Despite similarities in the alleged actions of both leaders, a striking difference has emerged in the ICC's response, prompting South Africa to challenge the apparent inconsistency. Minister Naledi Pandor, in a bold move, questioned the ICC prosecutor regarding the absence of an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This query was made in light of an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin. The response from the prosecutor was reportedly unsatisfactory, leaving room for speculation about the reasons behind the disparate treatment of the two cases. As we all know, South Africa has taken a proactive stance by filing a case against Netanyahu at the ICC, accusing him of war crimes. The country is actively seeking the arrest of the Israeli Prime Minister for his alleged involvement in actions deemed contrary to international law. This move highlights South Africa's commitment to holding leaders accountable for their actions, regardless of geopolitical considerations. It is crucial to recognize that both Israel and Russia are not signatories to the treaty that established the ICC, indicating that they do not recognize the court's authority. The ICC prosecutes individuals rather than states, and its jurisdiction extends only to those nations that have willingly submitted to its authority. But if that stopped the ICC from issuing an arrest warrant on the Israeli Prime Minister, why did they issue an arrest warrant against Putin? The discrepancy in the treatment of Netanyahu and Putin's cases raises important questions about the ICC's consistency and impartiality. Minister Pandor's inquiry, to which the prosecutor reportedly had no clear response, highlights the need for transparency in the legal processes undertaken by international institutions. So, is this the idea of Western nations controlling international communities, right? The international system is characterized by power disparities, with certain nations wielding more influence due to economic, political, and military strength. Western nations, particularly the United States and major European powers, have historically held substantial sway in global affairs. International legal proceedings, such as those conducted by the International Criminal Court (ICC), are intended to operate independently of political influence. However, the realities of international politics can still seep into legal processes. Geopolitical considerations influence the selective attention or prioritization of certain cases, and from the recent Israel-Hamas and Russia-Ukraine cases, this has become very apparent. Are human rights not universal? While universal human rights imply that every individual is entitled to certain fundamental rights, practical applications often face challenges, influenced by political power dynamics and geopolitical considerations. The political power of nations influences the selective enforcement or lack of enforcement of human rights standards. Powerful countries face less scrutiny or consequences for alleged human rights violations than less influential nations. Countries such as South Africa see it as their duty to advocate for such issues, regardless of the potential strain it may create in relations with Western nations. The lack of an International Criminal Court (ICC) warrant against Russia may have displeased many nations, yet they refrain from expressing their concerns. However, when it comes to addressing human rights violations, South Africa cannot stay silent. Do you think Israel and Russia are almost the same? Should Israel's prime minister be treated the same as Putin? Why did no nation other than South Africa raise its voice? Let us know in the comments section. Do you believe human rights are universal? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.